Welcome to another episode of Fred Speaks, where the hope is to inspire and motivate through spiritual content, topics, and conversation. I pray this podcast finds you in the best of health and spirits. Welcome, friends. This is Fred, the host of Fred Speaks, and I would like to start off with a story concerning Sodom and Gomorrah. And as you are aware, Abraham and Lot, they were very close. They were related. Lot was the nephew to Abraham, and they were dwelling together in the land of Canaan. And it got to the point to where the land was unable to support the possessions and the animals and the servants that they each had. And so Abraham went to Lot and he told him that it was time for them to go their separate ways. And Abraham basically told Lot that if you go left, I'll go right. If you go right, I'll go left. In other words, he was letting Lot choose the direction in which he wanted to go. And Lot chose to take the direction that led towards Jordan, which near Jordan was Sodom. And Abraham chose to go east and dwell in the land of Canaan. And so Lot, found himself dwelling outside of the city of Sodom, and he had a stand. He was a man of standards, the standards of God, and he knew about this city, so he didn't have any desire to be inside of the city, but he wanted to stay where he was outside of the city. But it's something about being near a city. There's a lot that goes on in a city. There's sounds, there's different things that you can hear. There's lights, there's activities. There's always something going on. And I was thinking about when I lived in the city of Detroit, and Detroit was known as one of the cities that never sleep. And that was so very true, that there was always something going on morning, noon, and night. And that's how Sodom was. There was something always going on. And even though Lot had a standard, there were circumstances that occurred that led to him and his family being inside of the city. And once Lot was inside of the city, he started to notice all of the things that he knew about the city, but he was able to see it firsthand. He could see the wickedness. He could see the sin that was going on in the city. And it was so much to the point that there was two angels that visited with Abraham. And they began to tell Abraham that God was very angry with the city and that he was going to destroy it. And Abraham pleaded with God that God would spare the city if he could find some righteous men there. And it started off with a very high number, but then it ended up getting down to 10. If he could find 10 in the city, that he would save it. And so the angels left Abraham, and they moved towards Sodom. And when they got there, they met Lot. And Lot, he bowed down to him. He recognized them as being of God, and that they were men of standard. And he was so glad to see them that he wanted to show them hospitality, and he invited them to come to his home. But they refused, and they said they would stay in the streets. But Lot was very persistent, so much so that they finally decided that they would abide with him. And he provided them great hospitality, and fed them well, and treated them well. But the men of the city saw when these men went in to Lot's home, and they came inquiring, and they wanted to know these men. They wanted to lay with these men. And it was so much to the point that Lot offered his 2 daughters. He said, I have 2 daughters, and you can take them and do what you will with them, but leave these men alone. But the men, they didn't want the daughters. They wanted the men. And they became angry, and they wanted to force their way in. But the angels pulled Lot in and closed the door. And as they were closing the door, they blinded the men. But they didn't give up. But because they were blind, they eventually gave up. And the angels told Lot that they needed to get out of the city, and that he should go to his son-in-laws and his daughters and tell them, that they needed to get out of the city. But they wouldn't hear Lot. They weren't trying to get out of the city. And so Lot was in a state of where he wasn't moving at the commandment that they needed to get out. And I thought about the movie Get Out, and there's a scene where Chris recognizes a man that was living in his neighborhood, and he began to take a picture of him. And as he was taking the picture, the flash went off. And when the flash went off, it caused the man to go into a state of where he began to realize who he was, and he began to express an urgent plea, saying, get out, get out. And even after hearing this, Chris, he still didn't get out. And I was thinking that would have been enough for me. There's something weird going on here. There's something crazy going on here. I want to get out. But Chris stayed. And I thought about Lot, even after the encounter with the men, wanting to get to the angel, he still was in a state where he wasn't moving. And it got to the point where the angels had to take them by force. Lot, his wife, and his 2 daughters, they had to get them out of the city. And he told them, once we're out of the city, look not behind thee. Don't look back. And I was thinking about that the spirit of the city was a city that everybody did what they wanted to do. And so to hear somebody telling them not to do something or to do something went against the spirit of that city. And as they were moving out of the city, and they get to the point of where now things are starting to happen in the city, they can hear things. And it's something about when you hear something, your automatic reaction is to look to see what's going on. You know, if you're in your home and you hear a sound that doesn't sound normal, you find yourself trying to go and look to see what's going on. And that's what was going on here. They were starting to hear sounds coming from this city that were not normal. They were used to hearing sounds of pleasure, sounds of merry, of everybody doing what they wanted to do. But now this was a different sound. There was a sound of despair. There was crying going on. And so it was not a normal sound. And if you can imagine being human and you hearing these sounds, the automatic reaction is to look to see what's going on, what's happening. But the commandment was, look not behind thee. And as they're moving forward, everybody took heed to the commandment. But Lot's wife, it was something about it that overwhelmed her. The sounds or it was something about knowing that the city was being destroyed, but it was overwhelming to us to the point she had to look back. And when she looked back, she was turned into a pillar of salt. And that leads us into our topic for this episode, which is don't look back. And I was thinking about looking back to learn from or to reflect on experiences to help others. There's nothing wrong with that. You can look back and you can learn from your experiences, whether they were good or bad. You can learn from them, or you can use them to be a help to others. But the problem that we run into is when we're looking back and when the focus is only on the bad experiences, and they put us in a state of depression. And that's the worst thing, when you find yourself on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis, of where you're looking back at these experiences and them pulling you down and putting you in a state of depression. It's almost being in quicksand, where instead of being able to move up, you find yourself going down, and things getting worse and worse and worse every time you reflect on these things. And the inclination is that we are looking back and we go back to relive those experiences that brought us so much disappointment and pain. And it just really amazes me as to how we can start to look back at things and relive them, and every day it just puts us in a bad state. It causes our day to start off wrong. And the thing is, we get to the point where we say, what's the use? Because of these experiences, we feel like there is no hope. There's no reason to go on because of these experiences. But I was thinking about the Apostle Paul. He realized there was a lot of things that he couldn't do. There, in this great big world, that there's a lot of things I can't do. But one thing, he got to the point, he said he got to this point where he was able to say, forgetting the things which are behind and reaching forth unto the things which are before. Forgetting the things which are behind and reaching forth unto the things which are before. And that's the thing that we must do. And the thing about it, even with Lot's wife, even though she was turned into a pillar of salt, that did not stop life. Life continued on. Lot and his two daughters were able to move on. Even though the city of Sodom was destroyed, they were able to move on. And that's the thing. We got to get to that place where we are able to forget the things which are behind. And in summary, I would like to say it is okay to reflect on previous experiences, to learn from them, as well as to use them for helping or teaching others. However, don't allow them to put you in a state of depression or cause you to be stagnant. And as the Apostle Paul stated in the passage, forget and press forward. And in order to forget, you got to be able to let go. And people say, I forget, I forget, I forgive, I forget. But they really don't, because they haven't let go. In order to be able to forget, you're going to have to let go some things. And once you let go some things, then you can press forward. Then you can move forward. Then you can start to say, I'm going forward. That I'm going to be better. That I'm going to, the things that cause me to cry, I'm going to use those as stepping stones to be able to move forward. So the good or the bad, the pleasure or the pain is in the past. Not to go back to them, but to move forward to new and better things. If you're hearing this message, you've listened to our new episode all the way to the end. And for that, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I would like to encourage you to share this podcast and give a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or
whatever platform you use to listen to Fred Speaks. Thanks.